Jennifer, last episode was such a powerful one when you told the story behind the story. In fact, it was quite interesting for you when you said passion, but in your story, I wish the audience for this episode will see that one, because what you really said was just going beyond the passion. It's actually the something within you to tell, to make people, where you feel you have to share this,
Yes.
Everybody's got a story, Jennifer. But then, as we close the last episode, how do you tell the story? That's what makes the difference.
Right.
What's your take in that?
So my take is that when you're going to tell the story, first of all, and I believe this is the cardinal rule, it has to be truthful. That to me is the most important thing, because I can tell you from my experience that, a viewer can actually suss it out. They know when you're trying to pad up the story, when you're trying to, give them some extra
The
stuff.
camera lens will find it out.
The camera lens will find you out, And I also feel that words, you cannot gloss it all over. You will be found out. There are lots of people who have been, actually caught on doing this kind of thing. And plagiarism is not unknown. It's not at all unknown. So you better learn, first of all, that you have to be telling the truth. I think the truth matters. I think that the truth in the public square is the most important thing if you want to be a good journalist. I think that's very, very important. So when you tell the story, is there credibility? Are you telling the truth? Are your sources absolutely above board? Are you telling the story to make an effective appearance on the screen? This is something that you have to guard against. You have to guard against that, yes.
There's a lot of pressure, especially for today's YouTubers and people who are wanting to tell the story. And in a way, unlike those days, today, platform is available. Earlier, platform was not available. Sure. I remember the days when you were there, Doordarshan was the only platform, and today you have a lot of platforms. But then there's always a pressure for the storyteller to say, I want others to watch my show. So how does that, how do you overcome that? You know what, you want to be genuine one side, you don't want to be loud. At the same time, how do you make it watchable and shareable, and how do you make the story enjoyable?
I think that depends very much on your own personality, Ashvin, because there are lots of people, and as a journalist, believe you me, you can become very arrogant and you can become very nasty, you can be very aggressive, you can be oppressive, you can be everything that you want to be. But at the end of the day, if you want people to listen, they are going to suss you out. The viewer is going to know that you're doing this for effect, you're adding these few extra words. And nowadays, if you watch a lot of the television that is available to us, you find that the journalists are yelling and screaming and getting hysterical and want to shock. It is not the intention, I believe, that you have to shock your audience. Tell them the truth. Let them make up their minds. If they believe you, well and good, you've won something. If they don't believe you, that's because you've told them a lie. And I think that is crucial. The truth has to set you free, really. Isn't that what the Bible says? Has to set you free. So I think that's the most important thing if you want to be a journalist.
And again, when you do stories, Jennifer, tell me, it's very interesting, sometimes the person, like even we both are doing this, I'm enjoying the way you tell the story, and I'm thinking of the audience, So how does one start thinking? Why are you doing the story? It's the audience, right? It's the audience matters.
Yes.
How does one keep that in mind and still speak the truth and still bring a kind of a feeling that, I want to be listening to this. So how do you do this packaging?
Right. First of all, I believe that you have to put yourself in the place of the audience. Would you like to hear this story? Would you like to see these details?
Right.
Now, if you take the air crash story, since we are talking about that at Ahmedabad, day before yesterday, the papers, one whole sheet of the paper were all these little stories about a family in the Northeast who lost their daughter, about a lady who was going to London to meet her husband as a surprise gift for his birthday. That story was there. There were these stories that were all present in that newspaper. So these are the important things people want to hear. I mean, how much can you go on hearing about the investigation, about the engines, about the flaps, about the wheels, about whatever happened? I mean, God bless those poor pilots and everybody else. May they really rest in peace. But at the same time, it was these little heartwarming stories. They're really heartwarming because it makes you think, it makes you relate immediately to that family. It makes you relate. And I think that is very, very, very important. So does the audience want to hear this? So therefore, if they want to hear it, then they deserve you to tell them. They are looking at you to tell them that story. I might sound old-fashioned as a journalist as we sit here and talk, but I do believe that that's what journalism is all about.
So that's the heartbeat.
That's the heartbeat of it. Do they want to hear you? If they want to hear you, if they trust you, they are going to listen to you. And that is a very important factor in journalism. Does your audience, does your viewer trust you?
The other question I wanted to ask you, Jennifer, is also in storytelling, you don't have, I mean, of course, print is one side, but in the visual side, it's always time constrained. You have a fantastic story, but you know what? You have 3 minutes. You have 5 minutes. You have 2 minutes.
Yes.
How do you package this?
That's a very important point because, for instance, in NDTV, when we started off there, we used to do stories of 3 minutes each story. And we thought that was wonderful. Oh, that was a long time. But suddenly, Dr. Roy said, no, I don't want these 3-minute stories. I want you to give me a 1.5-minute story. Now, that's the essence of brevity, really, when it
That's
comes
almost
to
like a trailer.
Yes, it's like a trailer, literally. So then you have to cut down everything. So you have to decide what is the most pertinent, the most salient point that you have to put in that story. Did the plane leave on time? Was there any other problem? You've got to put it very precisely. It has to be so concise. You don't have the luxury of time. We have the luxury of time as we sit here today or on any other show, like Going Beyond, for instance. I do have half an hour on that program. But supposing you told me to do that same thing in like 2 minutes, it would be very difficult. You would have to then decide what's the most important thing you want your audience to know about what happened or about the story within the story. That's very important.
So now as people are looking at these reels, it's 1 minute reels.
Yes.
And these 1 minute reels, if it's good, they go to the story. That's how the game has changed.
Yes.
So what you're saying makes precisely, it's so important for storytellers to understand as much as you're aiming at the larger story, also get to the point of what's your 1 minute trailer.
Right.
Would it be fair to say that?
Yes, of course, indeed. We had a rule that was a very solid rule. I remember in the very early days, I was told, does an 8-year-old or a 10-year-old boy living in the deep south in Tirunelveli district, can he understand your story? Does he understand what you're saying? Can he get the gist of the story in 1.5 minutes? If he's able to understand you, where you're coming from, you have succeeded. If he doesn't understand, well, go back, redo the story. You have to redo it. Otherwise, there is no way. People don't have time, Ashvin, these days. Who has the time to listen unless you really are free? Nobody's going to listen. So you better say it quick, be very succinct in what you're saying. Make sure that you have, another thing that journalists are very tempted, they use big words. I know that from experience. Sometimes I would say, can you give me the dictionary? I think I want to see what you mean. Jokingly, but the point is, that's not the way it should be. It should be simple, precise, concise, simple words, no big words, no words that people don't understand, no words that are not in daily use in our language these days. So that's very important.
Jennifer, I have to ask this question. In your experience, you have done stories with very different people, right from the top to anyone and things like that. But I'm just thinking, how do you really approach a story, especially when you're dealing with when you know the story, when you know the person to deal with the story is a different angle.
Yes.
But when you go to a village, it's a small shop. You want to make a story from that small shop. That's a different DNA, So you might be meeting a chief minister.
Yes.
That's another aura itself.
Yes.
But then a man on the shop who's nobody also can become a talking town.
Yes.
So it all depends on how you tell the story.
Yes,
Correct? So in the
yes.
next episode, we're going to dig kind of behind the story.
Fine.
How do you
Yeah.
handle from this end to that end? Both are stories and both are humans.
Yeah.
How do you get that emotion? How do you get that pulse? How do you decide on the spot, you know what, this is how much I'm going to draw and this is what the audience would really enjoy. At the same time, speaking truth. So we're going to find out more about that, Jennifer, from your rich experience.
Right.
But I'm really enjoying this, and I'm sure
Thank you.
people who are seeing this are taking key points, because you're talking about passion, you're talking about what's the story behind the story. You're also talking about, what it takes to be a great storyteller.
Yes, and the truth.
And the speaking to the truth. And what's the emotional. I think I like what you said, if you are not convinced, if you don't do your research and you're not convinced, you can't come there and fake it out.
You can't pretend.
You can't pretend, because the lens will find you out.
That's right.
The lens will know whether you're a genuine or you're a fake.
That's right, yes.
That's what you're trying to tell.
Yes,
So be
correct.
genuine is what you're saying.
Yes.
But in the next episode, I'm waiting to find out how do you handle the different personalities of your guest.
Okay.
But I'm really enjoying this
Thank
whole
you.
episode. I'm looking forward for the next episode in Let's Talk Influence.